James Dale Davidson, in his book, The Sovereign Individual, talks about the new tribalism and how actually we are, because of our communication technology now, we are actually moving more into tribes related by ideology rather than blood. And most of us are much closer friends with people who think like us than people who are related to us hereditarily. You know, the yo-yos you have to spend Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner with. And so it is this desire to connect that is driving a lot of relocalization efforts. It's driving a lot of new awareness of, wow, what happens to my emissions, my waste stream, my recreational dollars, my investment dollars. And so we have Woody Tash coming out with a new book that's just come out, Slow Money. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet, but of course, mimicking after slow food. And I think that's a natural progression, since the slow food movement in large has been financed by people who made their money in globalist corporate economies. See, and that's the kind of anomaly that we're beginning to wrestle with. And so we see this beginning to permeate other areas of our lives as we begin to relocate, as we begin to reconnect. And probably one of the single most important connections we can make is the carbon cycle. Because after all, what really keeps us living and breathing and moving is that thin, very thin layer of soil that converts solar energy and metabolizes it into vegetative material that can decompose to feed the earthworms and the gibberellins and the mycorrhizae and the actinomycetes and all of that beautiful, wonderful, magical life that lives underneath our feet that we don't think about because we're disconnected, walking on asphalt and hurrying to the next, big business date. And so as we begin looking at how do we connect to that cycle, how do we reconnect to the earth in this very visceral way, connecting to all of the streams that come in and go out of our lives, what we're running up against now is this decades old now built up disconnect that manifests itself in many, many ways. For example, in our county, our farm is in an agricultural zone. That's supposed to be farm friendly, correct? Well, do you know that the agricultural zone prohibits abattoirs? That's a nice euphemistic French, sounding way to say slaughterhouse. What better place to have an abattoir than near where the animals are? So they don't have to get trucked up the interstate 1,000 miles and ramrodded on a trailer and trucked away from where they were birthed and raised and born and loved all their lives. Why can't they meet their demise right there? Another illegal activity in agricultural zone is a sawmill. Well, what better place to locate a sawmill than next to the trees? And so what's happened is, in the industrial food and fiber system, is that we have run scale so huge that all of our farm-related value-added infrastructure that so wows and connects people when they go and visit Williamsburg and go through the George Wythe House out to the back, and there's the stave maker, the cobbler, the blacksmith, the tanner, the spinner, the candle maker, the lard maker, the butcher, all of this industry that creates this homestead, farmstead economy has now been segregated, and we have created economic and community apartheid by separating everything, because we are at the zenith almost of the Greco-Roman Western linear reductionized, disconnected, democratized, individualized, fragmented, systematized, all about me kind of thinking. And so what we have now are all sorts of prohibitions in agricultural zones to do the kinds of things that historically made farms economically viable. And so what we've done is we've created regulatory zoning pressures against farmers so that farmers can only be colonial serfs in the commodity program to feed raw materials at cheap prices, at slave peasant prices, to the industrial global corporate structure for value adding to be sold back to the populace at Taco Bell and high fructose corn syrup. So where we need to go is to allow scalable value-added enterprises in our agricultural zones so that we can reintroduce these economies. That's part of it. You see, the reason that we don't have a more viable local food, local commerce, connected carbon cycle than we do is not because we don't have entrepreneurs out here, and not because people aren't innovative anymore, and not because we don't have any creativity. Let me paint it this way. Everybody's familiar with eBay. Oh, okay. I mean, eBay's a big deal. All right. Well, just imagine if in order to go on eBay, you had to get a special use permit in order to connect to eBay from your home, because this actually isn't a residential use. I mean, a residence is for sleeping and eating and, the act of marriage and those kinds of things. That's what that's not for commerce, right? That's over in where Walmart is, right? Okay, so you have to get a special use permit to be able to connect, all right, which is just, simply you pay your $100 fee, you have your public hearing, and da-da-da. All right, no big deal, easy. Notify your neighbors, all this. All right, and let's say that in order to go on there, you have to have the electrician come out and inspect your wiring, that beehive of wires under your computer, to inspect those that they pass code, lest, you get some hot, takes in on your item you put on eBay and, melt your wires and burn your house down. So we got to have a fire marshal permit that your wiring is okay. And then we'd better have OSHA come out and make sure that our office complies ergonomically so that when we get that first hot bid and jump up, we don't get a splinter in our hiney from the plywood table that behind it. You see where I'm going with this? The question is, would eBay exist? It wouldn't. And that is why you can't get noodles from Aunt Matilda down the street. That's why you can't get chicken pot pie from Cousin James in the other block. Okay? That's why that doesn't exist. It's because in innovation, if you study innovation at all, read any business book, all innovation starts from a prototype. The prototype is the smallest viable entity that holds the components of that innovative model idea. That's why an oak tree starts from an acorn, not a 20-foot sapling or 20-foot, tree. It starts from an acorn because that's the smallest viable thing. You don't want to risk the mothership, when you're innovating. You want to do it in the smallest kernel as possible. So what happens is when you have these non-scalable regulations, the prototype has to be too big. The embryo cannot be birthed because it has to be birthed at too large a scale. If you can't sell a pound of cheese from your home kitchen and you have to have a $100,000 freestanding fire marshal permitted, zoning permitted, are you with me? Facility to sell 1 pound of cheese to a neighbor, when are you going to start your cheese business? Ain't going to happen because the embryo was too big to be birthed.